let's discuss the shutdown point. We already looked at where a firm was earning losses, right? So like up here. And so your first reaction is like, okay, well, why would they keep producing if they are earning losses? Well, we have a situation where we could produce and we could shut down. So why can a firm not avoid losses by shutting down or not producing at all? And when should a firm shut down? So what is the one thing that we cannot avoid when we're doing business? The one thing we can't avoid is the fixed cost. We have to pay rent, whether we do 0 units or 100 or 1,000. We have that fixed cost of producing. So there's no way of getting around that. So that is, number one, a sunk cost, but it is something that we need to consider in all 3 of these examples I'm going to lay out for you. The first situation is something where we don't operate. If you don't operate, your total revenue is $0. Your fixed cost is $2,000. Your variable cost is 0 because you're not operating, right? You're not buying any ingredients for your lattes, so 0 variable cost. So your total cost is $2,000. Your revenue is 0, so you're earning a loss of $2,000. Now this is your make it or break it point here, okay? So if you operate, hopefully you make more money to where your losses are less than $2,000. You should shut down and not operate if you're operating to where you are making losses worse than $2,000, okay? So right here, this is your point of like, do we operate or do we shut down? Let's operate at a loss, all right? And let's see if we made $2,000 revenue, okay? Fixed cost stays the same. Variable cost, because we actually had to buy things, is 1,000. So total cost is 3,000. So revenue 2,000, cost 3,000. We had negative $1,000 in terms of profit or loss. So guess what? Between these 2 situations, what would you choose to do? We would choose to operate at a loss. It's actually better for us to keep open because we earned less losses here. But what if we had a third situation where our revenue is still 2,000, but when we went to go buy ingredients and everything like that, it was too expensive, and now our variable costs are at 2,500. This puts our total cost at $4,500, which means we're now earning a loss of 2,500. So comparing these 3 different scenarios, these 2 situations right here, what would you rather do? Would you rather shut down, don't operate, or would you rather operate at a loss? Given these 2 situations, you would just not operate. Because if you did operate, you would actually be making less money. That's not going to work, okay? So what is the key difference between operating and shutting down? Well, the key difference here is right here, the variable cost. All right. So the variable cost shows us if we're going to make money or not. So whenever our total revenue is less than our total variable cost, we should shut down. All right. Another way to think about that is whatever price you're at, if that is below your average variable cost, you should shut down. All right. So here's how I like to think about this. Okay. Since we're associating the variable cost with like a latte, you're looking at the cup, the milk, the beans, right? All of those variable inputs that you're putting into it, all right? And again, we're throwing out the fixed cost of rent right now. We're only looking at the cost of producing this cup of coffee. On average, what is the cost of just the coffee? Forgetting rent, right? What is the average variable cost, just this coffee, of it? So let's say the average variable cost is $7. And again, going back to our previous example, our price is at $6. So we sell the coffee at $6, but it costs $7 to produce. We will never make money doing this. We're constantly earning a loss at the situation. So what should we do? You should shut down. If your price is below the average variable cost, you will never catch up. All right? If you had a point where your average variable cost was $5 and your price was at $6, yeah, you're making at least $1 on the coffee. You are having the loss from the rent, but at least you're earning some money on the coffee itself. All right, so you should remain in business if your price is above it. Right. So if your price is below the minimum average variable cost, we're using the minimum as an example to show what is the lowest possible price you can go. So if your price is below the minimum average variable cost, you should shut down. If the selling price of your coffee is, or your product is above the minimum average variable cost, you're good to go, right? You should stay in business, all right? Let me show you what we're talking about here. So we have our marginal cost and our average total cost and our average variable cost here, all right? There are three different points that we can look at. Number one, if we have a price way up here, so this is our demand curve and this is our price, guess what? We are earning profits. You have your profit max point here. This is your average total cost here. So you're earning profits equal to this area here. This is how much profits you're earning. If you got down to the point where you are at the break-even point right here, again, this is your demand curve, then this is your profit max. All right, and the reason this is your break-even is because your price is the same as your average total cost. Now, if you are in this area here, between the break-even point and the shutdown point, this area, this is where you're having losses. But again, you continue to operate here. The reason you continue to operate is because if I were to draw a demand curve right here, okay, and this right here, where the MR is equal to the MC, this is my quantity, my profit max quantity. If I were to go to my price here, and if I were to go up to the average total cost here, and this is our losses here. But again, if I were to look at the average variable cost, yeah, I would go to this point. See how this green point is passing through the average variable cost? This point is my average variable cost. So at least I'm making some money on the variable cost of this. So this is why I operate and I don't shut down. Okay? But if I go below this point, if I go below the minimum average variable cost, I should shut down. Okay, so basically what that would look like is if we had a demand curve way down here, right, then we should shut down because our price is here and we're having losses that are equal to this area and our variable cost is right here. So this illustrates our shutdown point, okay? So again, we have our break-even point where price equals ATC. We have the point where we're earning profits where price is above ATC, all right? And then we do have the shutdown point. So this area, you are having losses, and below here, you should shut down, okay? That's what we're really looking at here, okay? So since you only operate where price is more than average real cost, what we find out here is that since you shut down here and you're going to operate here, well, that means you're going to operate anywhere on this marginal cost curve. The reason we're using the marginal cost curve is because if your demand curve is here, here, or here, you would operate or you would supply. So right here is your profit max. This is your profit max. This is your profit max. If I were to look at all the different possibilities in terms of you operating, what we find out is that your short run supply curve is anywhere above the shutdown point on the marginal cost curve, okay? So since you only operate whenever price is more than average real cost and you always do price equals MC, your short run supply curve is the marginal cost above the average variable cost, okay? So the only reason you're supplying is because your price, which is the same as the marginal cost in terms of profit max, is above the average variable cost, so therefore short run supply curve, all right? In terms of the market supply curve, what we do is we take McDonald's or Starbucks short run supply curve, and then we look at Dutch Bros short run supply curve, and we add all those together, and that creates the market supply curve. All All right. Now, I did want to show you an example of why you should shut down. So looking here, your price is at 28 and your variable cost is 29, 59, 91, 126. So basically what happens here is your variable cost is always higher than your total revenue. And because that's the case, look, you never earn profits. And in fact, they keep getting worse. You go from negative $20 all the way to negative $34. It's actually worse for you to operate. And that's because your price was less than your average variable cost. So the suggestion here is to shut down. So what we're going to discuss next is what this looks like in the long run. All right, firms are going to shut down if this is happening. And what could happen is if there's profits, firms might enter. So we'll discuss that next. All right.